Thanks. This is Yoram Miller. I call the December 1st, 2021 meeting of the Village of Mamaroneck Board of Ethics to order. We have a couple of items to cover in open session before we'll go into executive session for one item and then come back out to see if there's any other business that we should be handling in the open session. With that, the first item of business is Sherry circulated the minutes from the November 17th meeting. Does anybody have any comments? Hearing none, I
make a motion that the minutes be accepted.
Thank you, and I'll second that motion. And with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes from the November 17th meeting are approved. The one thing I'd like to sort of go over, at least get thoughts on, is the annual report that I circulated yesterday, which was not as early as I wanted to, but at least not same day as it has been lately. So I'm glad we at least had a little bit of time that I got it to everybody. The one blank, Sherry, if you can help me fill in, is the number of meetings we had this calendar year.
Oh, yeah, I'll look back and look.
You prepared the minutes, so I figured you probably have them in one place, but
I have it.
sounds good. And otherwise, I tried to incorporate what we talked about on the 17th and clean up things a little bit since I finally had a little more time to actually pay attention to this. Again, Jeff, I added the comment you talked about the waste of time on the nuns. Hopefully captured it in a way that works for you.
Yeah, I also emailed you just a little while ago some sort of nitpicking changes. I think it went to everybody too.
Yeah, I'm looking for those. I just switched email systems. So if I don't find those edits, Jeff, I'll just shoot you an email. Oh, they're there. I have it. Perfect. Thanks. And let me actually open them right now and see if there's anything that I have questions about.
You can accept them or reject them or
No,
whatever.
I plan to accept them all. I just want to make sure that I can actually, they don't have questions reading them. So yeah, they look great, Jeff. So
I have to say that I woke up one night and out of a deep sleep, I remembered the term "e justum generis" from some class in law school, which is what I should have said to the chair of the advisory board when they made that snarky remark that, well, I'm an attorney and it's too vague.
Well, wait a minute. Can you fill us idiots into what "used to generous" means?
It just means it's a concept that where you name things, which is what we were talking about. We named certain categories and then you say, and like categories, which is what you had brought up, Susan.
Right.
And so the legal theory when you draft that is "e justum generis."
Oh.
And so that's a dig at him and he should recognize that right off.
Instead of calling it too vague.
Right.
A generalization is a good thing. Vagueness
It's a well-accepted concept.
Good. All right.
So
Well, I'm confused though. There were a couple of little things that we talked about that didn't get into the annual report.
I wouldn't be shocked if I missed something. Like I said, when we
I'm
met on the
not saying you missed it. There may be a reason.
well, let's discuss them now, though, and hopefully we'll get
Okay,
them.
well, one of them was the thing about the fines for not compliance with the thing was being egregious and no way to really follow up on that. I don't see that here.
Let's just knock it out right now if we want to do that as a group. Like I can just.
It's under second, I guess. You know, about.
Yeah, we can make it the new third. Although, yeah.
Well, it's 2A in a sense, because it's about the forms.
Yeah.
And the ethics board suggested the annual disclosure form be updated to avoid this problem. And then you could say an additional problem is that we thought that the fines as described were unreasonable, but there should be some enforcement procedure for non-disclosure.
Bear with me. I am just trying to get my computer behaving.
Don't ask me to repeat what I said. I don't know.
You're being recorded
We
anyhow.
won't lose that.
Oh, yay. I just have to get something. I'll be right back.
Well, so are we addressing every issue we brought up or only issues that they are not addressing?
That was the goal, that we would basically say we've spoken to the ad hoc committee.
Right.
And these are the issues that really go beyond what the ad hoc committee has discussed
Oh.
with us. And we,
So
wanted to
then
share that with the
these
board.
things that I'm thinking of are probably in that second category.
let's hear what they are as a group and see if it's something we do want to emphasize. I think the fines, I don't know if people feel strongly, I'm happy to put it in. I'm happy to sort of try to be consistent with the approach that this is something we've discussed with the ad hoc committee, and we can in the future comment once they get the final proposal.
I just think this village keeps passing laws and nothing gets enforced. So why continue to do that with this? Like, why put that in if you know you're never going to enforce that?
And as soon as we do, it's just going to create hostility and yeah. Or someone will try to use it for political purposes. Yeah.
So you're saying that there should be no fine and there should be no enforcement, but the person will be not allowed to participate in their committee, which we assume that people want to participate. I mean, they're not going to use this as an excuse to get off their committees.
No, you can just resign. It's much easier than that.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, it's a little bit disgraceful not to fill in your disclosure form and to be, not allowed. It's sort of like, sometimes restaurants or places will have the check that bounced and it'll say, don't serve this person. So the person won't be allowed to participate if they haven't fulfilled it by, 60 days or 90 days or something like that. And it's not about a fine. It's just you don't get a chance to participate anymore. We don't know who you are.
And maybe the fine is appropriate in some circumstances, which is why giving the Board of Ethics the discretion makes sense to me.
Yeah, but how are you going to get the money? Who's going to do that?
Well, we currently have procedures for assessing fines for other things. And you're right, no one's going to go sue the person to collect the fines. And as a practical matter, I can't imagine a scenario we would enforce one. Certainly not at the numbers they were throwing out there of the 100 and 500 mandatory fines.
Yeah.
So do you want to just add a sentence at the end of what's second, now that I think I finally got my computer working, that indicates we were also concerned about the concept of mandatory fines, which seem inconsistent with the goal of encouraging participation?
You don't want to say anything in the difficulty of enforcement. But they should be clear about when the disclosure forms are due. And after that due date, there will be some consequence to the person.
But I
Alan?
think that,
Yes, certainly.
no problem. I think the point is that maybe we'll see what the draft says, and then we can make a comment at that point.
Okay, because that was discussed with them.
I don't know what they're probably going back and forth, the advisory, back and forth as to what to put in, and let's see what they do. They know what our concerns are.
Mhm. Okay. And the other thing was, we didn't say anything about the issue that Shari was bringing up about employment. Did we say something about that in the annual report?
Yeah, that should have been the first, under the first
It wasn't.
paragraph.
It wasn't though. This is about book record keeping.
Yeah.
It's about record keeping and storage.
What happened? We had that.
Then disclosure.
You do, you have a paragraph on it first, right?
Where?
No, that's the record.
Oh,
keeping.
yeah, yeah, so I guess why didn't you put that
It
into?
was, that has me absolutely baffled right now. So let me figure out what happened. Oh, it comes before the first because that's the one item we talked about with the ethics, with the ad hoc committee that's here. So it's actually the paragraph that begins the ethics board as constituted at the time. And it's the end of that paragraph that we have it. So it starts on page 1 and it's
Yeah, I see it.
carryover.
Yeah, I see it, but it just,
Yeah.
oh, not related to the committee, that, okay, it's just confusing because you start with first and that's really actually the second or whatever. It's a different category. I understand why you did it that way, okay.
Do you want to break that out as a separate paragraph so it'll be easier to find?
No, it's all
Yeah.
right.
I think it's fine as it is.
Okay.
Or-
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. Are there other comments? I definitely, Alan, I don't know if you heard, Jeff circulated some comments to us that I will incorporate wholesale. If there are any other comments, I'm certainly open to them on the annual report.
I'm just reading Jeff's now. Sorry, I've been away from the computer, but yep, no, it looks great.
Good job, Yorm.
Yeah.
I like the Ejusdem generis. I keep learning things.
Well, yeah, you missed that. That's my snarky answer to the chairman.
I guess if we have no other comments, if anybody sees anything, let me know, but we can then go ahead and approve this with, subject to Jeff's changes. If everyone's good with that.
Or your acceptance of them.
Yeah,
That's not
exactly, yeah.
in stone.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make that motion, just whatever Yorm said, I make the motion.
I second it.
Sherry, just so the minutes are clear, I learned this before. We just voted to approve the annual report as amended by Jeff's comments. And with that, the only other sort of open piece I have is something for executive session.
One second, the thing, that's probably what you're about to talk about, the
The advisory opinion.
advisory opinion. Okay, I'll wait.
And if anything comes out of that discussion that merits being discussed in the general session, we can do that when we finish the executive session. So with that, everybody, let's just go ahead and get a motion to adjourn into executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I'll see everybody in executive session. We'll just give Alan another minute or so.
So is this a bad time to confirm that there is no party in December?
No party.
Is that correct?
Yep.
That's correct.
Anybody want to come over here with a bottle? That's fine. Or without a bottle. I got plenty.
Well, we might as well just jump in and fill Alan in if anything actually comes up, but we came out of executive session where we addressed an advisory opinion request that we received. And now I think we have now signed off on everything that we have had before. Oh, perfect, Alan's here. Hey, Alan. So we have now voted on every matter that I think has come before us this calendar year, barring anything unexpected happening in the coming weeks. I don't see any reasons for us to meet again until the annual disclosure forms start coming in, as Susan mentioned. Is it easier just to wait till we get into February and a few weeks before we meet to try to schedule the meeting then, as opposed to pick
Yeah.
a date now so far?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I only planned for a month. Fine.
So in the end of January, we'll try to go ahead and pick the next meeting date. It'll be virtual. We'll expect it'll deal with, unless something else comes in, it'll deal with the advisory or with the annual disclosure forms. And with that,
Good job, Mr. Chairman.
well, I was just gonna say, it's been a
I just
pleasure.
I want to thank everyone for welcoming me and being helpful, and also wishing you all a happy holiday, happy, peaceful, healthy holiday season.
Same day.
Second.
Thank you, Susan.
Oh,
Well,
I
I'll
move-
Make-
and I
I'll
move-
make a motion, we adjourn.
Seconded. All right, thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.